Calcium carbonate is an important chemical. As well as being crushed, sorted and used straight from the quarry face, it can also be processed. This is what happens to 3% of all limestone. The calcium carbonate is transported to huge kilns, where it's tipped into the top and burnt. Inside the kiln, the temperature reaches over 1000 Celsius. The heat causes the calcium carbonate to decompose. It breaks down to carbon dioxide and calcium oxide. Water trapped inside the rock leaves the chimney as steam, along with invisible carbon dioxide gas. The other product, calcium oxide, drops out to the bottom of the kiln. It's used in the chemical industry and in the manufacture of steel. But it can also be further processed. Reacting the calcium oxide with water produces another useful chemical. This reaction gives out a huge amount of energy. The temperature reaches 98 Celsius. Calcium oxide and water makes calcium hydroxide. The calcium hydroxide solution turns universal indicator paper blue, showing that it's alkaline. It's an essential chemical for purifying water, making cement and processing leather. A more unusual use of limestone is in art.
I love sculpture, it's my life. You can carve a form in limestone and hopefully it will be there in 100 years or even 1,000 years' time. One of the consequences of me making sculpture is scars on the landscape, quarries that are far from beautiful, and they're damaging the visual environment, and it's something I think that all sculptors who work in stone think about and worry about and are very mixed about. The reason I like working with limestone is it's a very beautiful stone, and it holds the marks of the tools, and you can use those marks, the marks the claw make in the limestone, to accentuate the form you're carving. You can the points of the claw, for example, will leave a pointed texture on the stone. It's a very nice stone to carve. It's a nice mottled stone. It has the blue and the kind of beigey colour. And when you polish it, you smooth it down from this kind of clawed texture and you polish it up, you can see all the little shells locked inside the stone. I feel very mixed about quarrying limestone. It's my life and I couldn't do anything else. I love making sculpture. I just hope that people feel that the things that I make from limestone are possibly as beautiful as the limestone in its natural environment in the landscape.
So limestone has many uses and there's a huge demand for it. In this country alone, we quarry 120 million tonnes a year. But as we've already heard, there is a price to pay. There are many drawbacks to living in a national park with a limestone quarry on your doorstep.
The quarries that are around here, they're just like big monsters that invade all the really nice hills.
There's over 700 lorries that go past in a day, and they're really noisy and loud, and you can hear them from our house.
All the vegetation is just covered in white dust, and it just looks appalling, really. It's meant to be green as the grass, not grey.
I just think it's awful for the tourists that come from other countries and think that the Yorkshire Dales is one of the best places to go. It's nice and everything, but the quarries just ruins it.
You just have to get used to living with the noise of the quarry if you live around here. It's just a part of living opposite it. Even at school, you can still hear it rumbling and blasting.
Quarry manager Peter Gillett explains how quarries are trying to minimise the dust and noise.
The main environmental concerns people have are about noise when we blast. When we actually blast, we monitor the impact in terms of vibration and noise regularly to check they are within permitted limits. The lorries, before they leave our premises, are washed and cleaned, and we have a very stringent policy of sheeting the lorries to minimise the effect once they're out on the roads.
So, are quarries doing enough to satisfy locals and environmentalists?
Quarry companies are trying to make great play of the fact that they're now putting sheets over their lorries and that they've changed some of their practices in blasting. But we really don't believe that it's made any significant difference on the impact of quarrying on national parks. We believe that quarrying is the most damaging thing that you can do in a national park. Once you've taken out a chunk, it's gone forever. You can never reverse the damage and make things better.
Obviously, you can't put quarried rock back, but some quarries are finding ways of restoring the land.
It is important that we are concerned about how we look from outside our boundaries. And in areas that can be seen, we progressively restore them, and we plant grass and we plant trees and we restore it to basically blend in with the local area.
So what was once a bleak quarry face now looks like this, a grassy countryside slope, much like any other. As well as restoring as they go, some quarries have plans for the land when the quarry reaches the end of its life. Plans which certainly please some of the locals.
Quarry near our village is planning to take all the machinery that you can see currently as you drive past off the side of the road and put it over the hill, and then when it's all finished they're going to take all that machinery away and put a lake there. So in about 30 years' time there'll be a rather beautiful lake which hopefully will benefit everybody.
But restoration costs money, and not all quarries are prepared to pay. So are there any advantages to having a quarry nearby?
By the nature of where the stone is, quarries tend to be in rural locations. In those areas, the main industries are historically and traditionally quarrying, agriculture, and more recently, tourism. The quarry itself provides jobs for the local people, as well as a lot of other jobs for people associated with the quarry.
If the quarries weren't here, there would be an awful lot of people out of work in one way or another.
Knowing whether quarrying limestone from national parks is a good or bad thing is difficult. We don't want to put people out of work and stop supplying a vital material, but we can't ignore the environmental concerns. So what should we do?
We need to make sure that we use anything that we take out of a national park really wisely, that we recycle the materials as much as possible because, for example, when roads are repaired or when buildings are demolished, it is possible to reuse a lot of the material. We can all do our bit as well. For example, if you recycle paper or you recycle glass, they include minerals and you're actually helping to make a difference then.
Reducing demand is one way forward. Another alternative is to close down quarries in areas of natural beauty. But where would the limestone end up coming from instead? How would you feel if a quarry was planning to open on your doorstep?